everybody, it's Drybear. And I've been testing a whole bunch of really fast routes to try and get Scrappy to level 5 Master Hoarder fully maxed out so you can get all the materials that you need every single time you run. So what I wanted to do today is share all the methods and explorations I've done on where to find all the nature items, all of the trinket items that Scrappy needs, and part of this is preparing for expeditions coming in December where we know we're going to have to willingly reset all of our progress. We'll have to level up everything again, and I wanted to have a very fast route to getting Scrappy maxed out as soon as possible for that. But I know there's also a bunch of people that haven't been degenerates like me, playing the game non-stop and kind of enjoying it that way, and so you probably haven't leveled up your Scrappy. So we're going to cover both of those and just talk about how to do Scrappy as quickly as possible. I went ahead and made a handy dandy one sheet for Scrappy that we can use in the future for that. This goes through all 4 of the level ups that you'll need, the items that you'll need, and also where I recommend farming them. But throughout this video, we're going to show footage of all the items that you need to get, where to look for them, and some spots that you may not have expected going forward. I'll have this image down below in the comments and then description. If you're interested, you can just download it, keep it on your second monitor, have it up on your phone while you're playing on console, whatever works best for you. Now, the first item you're going to need is a dog collar, and this comes from residential areas. Now, with any of the trinket style items that we have for Scrappy upgrades or any workshop upgrade, all you have to do is match the style of loot, like the category it belongs to, and you'll find it in those areas on any map anywhere. But it doesn't mean it has to come from that. A lot of these trinket style items, like the pillow or the bed or the dog collar, can really come from anywhere just based on RNG, and because of their rarity, they have a higher chance of dropping in search chests, so like cabinets, drawers, or anything breached. Now, that being said, I think one of the fastest ways to get the dog collar that has been the most consistent for me is going to be any of the external residential houses on the outside of Dam Battlegrounds. So if we go to Dam Battlegrounds, you'll notice that on the outside here at the very top left corner, we have Pale Apartments, Ruby Residence, and Pattern House. I was basically, when I was doing run tests, I was getting a dog collar, 1 or 2 dog collars guaranteed every single time. So I would go to Dam Battlegrounds, depending where I would spawn, I would just pick one of these and just clear all 3 of them. So go to Pale Apartments, clear the Pale Apartments, do Ruby, do Pattern House, and I was usually finding anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 dog collars every single time I did this run, which is pretty straightforward. And what's cool about this is they're not actually marked as a loot location, and they don't have any enhanced loot. Like, they're not a medium or high level loot area. So usually people, if they spawn here, will clear these and run into the map, or usually will ignore them entirely, which means most of the time you have very little contest. You can come out here and grab these all in a quick row and grab your dog collar and be done. Now again, the dog collar can spawn pretty much anywhere in the world, so you can do that, but I usually just do a quick run on these and I'll get one every single time. Doesn't mean it's going to happen to you every single time, especially if someone's already been there to loot it, but it's super fast, and anytime you're doing a Dam Battlegrounds run, you can pop up here, check these areas, get it done, or you can just play normally and dog collars will randomly spawn and generate as you play normally. They can realistically spawn anywhere, so just keep an eye out. So that's going to be the first level, is just getting a dog collar and vibing with it. For the next 3 upgrades, it will use a combination of nature items as well as trinket items. However, there's one massive tip, which you can see under my head here at the very top right. There is a really easy way to get all of the nature items you have listed here. So the lemons, the apricots, the prickly pears, the olives, and the mushrooms can all come from Lush Bloom fruit baskets, which means that even if you're not target farming these, as long as you're doing maps that have the Lush Bloom event active, you can very easily get all of the nature items you need to upgrade in a matter of minutes. In fact, if you got lucky enough, you could probably get 3 lemons, 15 apricots, 6 prickly pears, 6 olives, and 12 mushrooms in like 15-20 minutes just by doing the fruit baskets. And honestly, it's probably worth waiting for, because it would be faster than just trying to target farm all the nature items directly. And if you don't know about this, all the maps can have a specific event triggered on them. Right now, there's uncovered caches on Dam Battlegrounds. You'll find extra probes, extra caches, the harvester event, lush blooms, all kinds of special events. So just look for the Lush Bloom icon, which will look like this. It has the nature icon on it and causes Lush Bloom. So this has 2 major effects that you need to be aware of for the event that's going to make your Scrappy farming go from, spending 3, 4, 5 days farming the materials to spending under an hour farming the materials, is paying attention to the Lush Blooms. So there's 2 major things that happen with Lush Blooms. The first is nature items naturally, pun intended, are spawning more, which means that their chance to spawn and where they spawn is increased during the lush blooms. However, there's a secret effect of the lush blooms that I don't really see people talking about enough. It's going to be the fruit baskets that spawn. And that is anytime you're on lush blooms on pretty much every map. I haven't physically confirmed it, but I've seen it pretty much on most of the maps. You'll find these little baskets that appear laying around. You'll see 2 prickly pears, 4 lemons, 5 apricots. It comes with moss and fertilizer and roots and resins and things like that. But based on which one you open, you could get super lucky. Even this one right here gave us lemons, apricots, and prickly pears all in one bundle that is like a third or half of the amount you need for Scrappy. And I have confirmed that every single one of the nature items that is needed for Scrappy upgrade come from these fruit baskets. You can find mushrooms, prickly pears, olives, lemons, apricots. See this one here, we got 1 lemon, we got 2 olives, we got 2 prickly pears on this one. Then I stepped outside and literally like 50 feet away from that one fruit basket, I found another one in a bush. And when we open this one, you can see that this one does contain as well. We got a lemon, we got 3 mushrooms, which is probably the hardest thing to get, more apricots. So you go to a Lush Blooms map and open 4 or 5 of these baskets, you might actually end up getting every material nature item that you need to upgrade Scrappy in a single run. Now, of course, that's really for people that just want to try and optimize their time efficiency by just doing Lush Bloom fruit baskets to get everything they need. But obviously, if there are no Lush Blooms going on, you're going to want to farm these things manually. So let's talk about all the different locations that you can find. I went through every single map and scoured for all the different drops, and there are actually places on almost every single map that you can get almost every single nature item. You just have to know where to look. So let's start in chronological order, starting with the lemons and apricots. These come from the same type of tree. They look the same, they function the same, and so it looks like this. So as you're approaching, it's kind of like this really thin tree that branches out a little bit and spreads out. Not these are olive trees, but instead these. Very thin, and just memorize that look, because you will see these on Buried City, you'll see them on Spaceport, you'll see them on Blue Gate, you'll see them on Damn Battlegrounds. They all appear the exact same way, and they have that one. So the bigger ones, the olives, we'll talk about that in a second, but the smaller ones that have that thin tree in the middle that branches out, those are your lemon and apricot trees. So just look for them, do a quick circle around them to see if there are an interact. If there is an interact, just kick the tree, it'll drop an apricot or lemon, whichever one it is, and usually you can find these in good areas. Now, the best location to do these is the one you see on screen, which is the olive grove inside of Blue Gate. Even though it's called the olive grove and it does have olives, it has, in my opinion, the highest density of lemons and apricots that you can get. By just going here, you'll usually get like 8 to 12 of each of them just by running around. You can see there's 2 apricots sitting on the ground. We kick the tree for a third. There's like 6 to 8 trees inside of here, so you could very easily fill up in one single go if no one's hit it before you, getting all the apricots and lemons that you need. Which is going to be here on Blue Gate. If we go inside, you'll go down here to the olive grove. Now, what's interesting about the olive grove is right on the marker at the very center of this garden area, it's pretty much all apricots and lemons just in the center area. However, to get olives, you'll want to go a little bit further out. Like on the outside of this is going to be more olives, and in the center is more apricots and lemons. However, there's a couple more locations you can find apricots and lemons on Spaceport. If you go up here through the trench, so at the very north side of the map, there's this trench. Inside of this trench, which is below the towers and the hangar, it's like this inside, like it's an actual trench. Jump into the trench and then follow this here. So like this pathway, you can see the green little dots. There's trees all along here in this trench area on Spaceport. There's some over here as well, and you can check like down here as well in the staff parking, but I found the trench to be the most consistent for this. So go here and walk this whole trench. You'll find a good amount of trees. You won't find quite as many as the olive grove on Blue Gate, but you will still find a lot. And by the way, there's mushrooms in here too. When it comes to Buried City, there is actually 2 locations that you could look at, but the most common is going to be the center area, Murano Park. There's some downsides with this though. So Murano Park almost always guaranteed has at least 1 bombardier or at least 1 bastion sitting in the middle. Not only that, but it has drones going around that kind of fleck between the Piazza Roma and the research area, and a lot of people go to Town Hall and space travel for loot as well. So this area, not only is it swarming with Ark, especially on Night Raid, but also has a bunch of players in it as well, and it's also probably one of the most touted locations. So you can go to Murano Park, check the outside like like perimeter here. So basically imagine like a rectangle gets drawn on the inside of this. Go to the outside of it. Don't go to the center because you'll run into the bastion or the bombardier that's there. But if you walk on the outside, you will find trees as you go along. But again, you'll notice that on the map, there are trees literally everywhere. So just following the edge of almost any building in Buried City, you will find apricot and lemon trees along the way. I'm not kidding. They spawn on every single map. So you can just run around and look around. So you may have just even seen them. Do you spot the lemon or apricot trees? We already know what they look like. So you can just run over and kick them. They will spawn near buildings on the outside, near loot areas and things like that. You can very easily just come grab them and get a couple lemons, a couple apricots as you roll through. So just pay attention to that shape. You see that? Memorize that. The green kind of growing outward with a singular tree in the center. Just run by and grab it, kick it. You'll get it and get the fruit from that. So that takes us to level 3, the catbed, the olives, and the prickly pears. Again, the olives and prickly pears we can get by just doing the fruit baskets during the Lush Bloom events. But let's talk about some specific locations that you can go to pick these up. Now, the prickly pears come from any cactus, and a lot of people recommend going to Buried City as there are a few locations that are very dense for this. One of the most common ones is down here in the south. So basically you have to go to any map and find cactuses. And there are cactuses on every single map, but if you go to Buried City, you'll find a little cactus patch right here. You see the little like lighter version of those. There's 2 cactus patches. So on Buried City on the south side, there's a cactus patch right here and a cactus patch right here. So normally what I do if you want to farm prickly pears specifically is start on either the south or on the northeast side of Buried City, and then follow the outskirts of the town. So you'll find cactuses basically everywhere here. I have done northeast, like far northeast, north, west, and like southwest. There isn't really anything worthwhile. It's all on the like right side quadrant of the map. So there are 2 cactus patches here. Then you can follow the tree line on the outside of Buried City. You'll find a bunch of cactuses all along the way that can spawn prickly pears. And then the next patch that I would look at is going to be right here. So you can see that there, and you can grab those. So basically on the far east side right here, just by the highway, you'll find another large patch of cactuses that you can check for the prickly pears. So if you want to farm them manually, again, just go to the east side and then swoop down to the south edge, or start at the south edge and swoop up to the east side. Check every cactus. You can also find agave along the way from these, but just run through and check the cactuses. But surprisingly enough, after checking all the maps, they do kind of appear in most maps, just they have the highest concentration in Buried City. So if you go into Dam Battlegrounds, if you go to these dry areas in the corner of Dam Battlegrounds away from the swamp, so like up here in the corner or up here where the like north of where the harvester spawns, you will find cactuses and they can spawn prickly pears. So even if you're doing a special event on one of these other maps, just go to the edge and go to the dry areas, find the cactuses and check them just to see if any prickly pears spawned. Next up is the olives, and they do have a different tree. So the lemon apricot trees, they're not exactly identical, but they're very close. Like the lemon tree is a little rounder and the apricot tree is a little bit more V-shaped, but they look very, very close together. Then we have the cactuses for the prickly pears, and then we also have the olive trees that are usually like dark gray, kind of old, and very large. And as we talked about before, the best place to get these by far is on Blue Gate near the olive grove. Now, one thing that you'll notice that I've done by just running around this area over and over is the center area of Olive Grove usually has apricots and lemons, and then basically from the edge of the map in a massive circle around Olive Grove, there are a ton of olive trees. So don't just set a marker to the center of Olive Grove and go there. Check the outside. So basically all this dead area will have tons of olive trees all over the Olive Grove. Now, so these are the smaller trees, lemon and apricot trees. What you're looking for are these big and again very more complicated trunks, and they're much thicker and usually come with different setups as well. So more brown with that. However, most of them also have like a discolored patch of ground at their base on Blue Gate. So you can look for the tree shape, which you can see tons of them here, again, away from the center of Olive Grove, but you can see these. And on top of that, you see that discolored ground, that circle around them, that makes them very easy to spot. They usually have that twin setup of 2 trees bound together, a very gray and a lot more dried out, and then they have this discolored area just around them. And you can either run up and you'll find olives on the ground already, or you can kick the tree to cause olives to drop, or both. Sometimes they'll have 1 or 2 olives laying on the ground next to them. You kick them, you get a third or fourth one, you know, that's or a second or third one that helps you build up your numbers. And again, try to stay away from the center of Olive Grove, and you can see how many, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see once you learn to recognize them, they're basically all over this area, even just away from the Olive Grove center section. Next, when it comes to the cat bed and also the very comfortable pillow, both of these items are trinket items that fit inside the residential and commercial areas, which means, again, just like the dog collar, these will drop pretty much anywhere in the game, even outside of those zones, but they have a higher chance of dropping from the residential and commercial areas. And again, because they are higher rarity than just common materials, they will have a higher chance of coming out of searched containers that generate loot. So either like drawers or cabinets, or specifically, you know, breaching something and opening it will have a high chance there. However, very similar to the dog collar, I have a location that works great for both of them. These ended up being the fastest farm location that I could find. That is, again, if we go to Blue Gate and go to the map, that's going to be the village here. The village is both commercial and residential simultaneously, which means it will drop all 3 of them. Dog collar, the cat bed, and the very comfortable pillow can all drop from here. It also has a ton of houses and 2 different villages to go to too, on top of the fact that it's on a map that usually has people fighting in the open areas or going to the high loot locations separately, which means you can pop into a Blue Gate run to the village, and again, you could start from like the corner here, clear every house in the village, and you'll probably end up with at least 1 or 2 dog collars, at least 1 or 2 cat beds, and at least 1 or 2 very comfortable pillows, which means in basically a matter of 1 to 3 runs, you could get all of those from this location and extract to jump out. Now, aside from that, there are a couple of locations that I recommend. The Grandioso apartments on Buried City are also pretty good for this. The downside with Grandioso apartments is it is a very large area that actually has like a medium to low loot density. What I mean by that is when you're running through the apartments, there are 2 large buildings with massive floors and tons of rooms. However, inside of the apartments, there aren't that many spawned loot locations. So my recommendation for farming the Grandioso apartments is don't waste a lot of time here. I've done this several times where I went and checked every nook and cranny, and I looked really slowly to see if there's anyone coming. But honestly, my experience with this location is, again, because the density of loot is so small for how big it is, I recommend trying to do this area quickly. Now, obviously, you will still find fireballs and pops as you're running through. You have to worry about other players and things like that. But generally, I try to run full speed through this whole thing. Otherwise, it'll end up taking the entire run to get, you know, a medium to small amount of loot. However, this is a great spot for anything residential. It also, in my experience, drops a lot of commercial stuff too, but you can run through here, and this is a decent spot for finding residential items, which you will need for the Scrappy upgrades. Lastly are the mushrooms, and in my opinion, the mushrooms are the most annoying farm on this entire list. Now, like the other nature items on this list, they spawn pretty much everywhere. Some maps are better than others. However, mushrooms takes this to a whole new level because there are specific nature spawning trees that will have the highest containment of these mushrooms, which I'll show you in just a second. However, they can also randomly spawn sometimes on arc wreckage. So like the edge of those kings and barons you see just hanging out, like those old world first wave arcs that are just chilling. Sometimes you'll find mushrooms growing on those. You can find mushrooms growing on the edges of some buildings sometimes. You can find mushrooms growing on horizontally downed trees in the swamp areas. They are all over the place. However, there's a couple locations that are very consistent and easy to pick these up, because this is by far, I get the longest one that's going to take you a while to get it done unless you get lucky with a fruit basket on Lush Bloom. Now, the thing that you want to look out for, because we know we looked for cactuses for the prickly pears, we look for the apricot and lemon trees, we also look for the olive trees, and those environment assets tell us where the mushrooms are. The most common mushroom drops are going to be on these. It is a dead tree that's standing vertically upright, usually in an area by itself, and it has fake environment style mushrooms coming out of it. Now, once you learn to spot these specific trees, you can very easily just run through any map and check to see if they're nearby. You'll find them most often near water, and again, you can find these pretty much in every map. However, I found the most common spawns of them are going to be on Spaceport and Dam Battleground. So again, a dead tree, you're going to see the harvestable mushrooms on the edge of it, and then you'll see fake environment art mushrooms on them. So memorize the way that tree looks, because you will see them everywhere. All you have to do is when you spot one, you know, you change behind your eye, run over, run around it, see if there's some mushrooms on it, and then run away. And they don't really spawn on pretty much anything else that common. So again, just look for those fake mushrooms. When it comes to maps, the most common place to find these is going to be on dam battlegrounds anywhere in the swamp. Like you can start here and you can run through all of the swamp areas and you will find those mushroom trees. They're pretty spread out, and sometimes it will take you a lot of runs to run through to get them if you don't find any fruit baskets during lush blooms. You can also find them near the hydroponic dome complex, but again, any of those mushroom spawning trees that spawn in the swamp area on dam battlegrounds will have them. However, if you're not trying to get all the mushrooms in one go, the better option, which would be less mushrooms total, but a lot more consistent and maybe less, making you want to rip your hair out, is going to be on Spaceport, which is that same area we talked about earlier. So going to Spaceport, you'd probably say, hey, Drybear, what the heck are you talking about? There's no nature items on Spaceport. There's not even any nature areas on Spaceport that you can find that'll do anything. And I tell you, I know, yes, but I've run around, I've checked it. And again, the trench on the north side of Spaceport. You go into the trench. If you clear this whole trench, you see these couple of trees going through here. Usually at the ends and in between, there will be little baby ponds, like little puddles of water. And near those will be those mushroom spawning trees. So if you're not going to do the lush blooms thing, what I recommend doing is just run Spaceport over and over and then come to the trench at the end. You'll see these here. You see this little puddle of water and a bunch of dead trees. Even though we're in an area that's mostly metropolitan, it is a spaceport. There are little pockets that you can run to that will have mushrooms and sometimes other nature items in it. So in this case, we run to the east side of the spaceport trench. We found a bunch of agave, some great mulleins, which is good for the herbal medicine, like the green quality bandages. Then we'll run around here and we round the corner, and lo and behold, what do we have here? One of those dead mushroom standing trees with the fake mushrooms on it. And this one had 2 separate mushroom farms on it in general. So again, you can see these grabbing them up. If you run Spaceport and clear the trench each time, you'll end up getting anywhere from 2 to 5 mushrooms. There's actually 3 on it on the corner there. So these, in my opinion, it's going to be a lot more consistent and a lot less time consuming than Dam Battlegrounds. However, you won't be able to get all the mushrooms you need in a single run. So just run Spaceport a couple times and make sure you clear the trench area to get all these nature items, and then you're good to go. So that's what I've got. That is every upgrade for Scrappy. And like I said, if you're doing the Lush Blooms event with the fruit baskets, or you know these really specific spots to farm all of this, instead of spending days or a week getting your Scrappy upgrade, you can get it done in less than an hour if you know where you're going and you have luck on your side. If not, it'll be less than 2 hours. It's actually incredibly fast once you know what of the environment assets to look for, these specific trees, the specific parts that drop them, and also know where on the maps they tend to spawn and how often. Means you can quickly slam right through this and get this done, which is useful for players that are brand new to the game, that haven't leveled up Scrappy, or are just fresh off an expedition and want to level them up again. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.